run-of-river style projects that have very small head ponds. They have long, steep, and skinny penstocks, and they average about 10 megawatts in size. IPPs should continue to have an important place on our rivers and in our economy for the following 7 reasons. The run-of-river style of projects that IPPs focus on and do best has the lowest environmental impact of any form of power generation. BC Hydro is best known for its much bigger reservoir-style projects. Number 2, run-of-river IPP projects create jobs in rural areas where they are needed most. Number 3, run-of-river IPPs generate new revenues to government in the form of water rentals, school and property taxes, income taxes, and often payments to local governments. Run-of-river IPPs provide the most opportunities to First Nations in the way of jobs, capacity building, revenue payments, and equity involvement. IPPs do run-of-river projects cheaper than BC Hydro. And IPPs shield BC Hydro ratepayers and taxpayers from risks during the high attrition development phase and from projects that get hit with construction overruns. The private sector brings another hand on deck to help create BC's new green economy. This is especially true now that BC Hydro is busy with its own record level of capital expenditures and hiring plans. Contrary to allegations made during the recent campaign, there are many things that IPPs are not. IPPs are not new. BC's rivers are not being sold, and they are not gone forever. After 40-year lease is up, IPPs have no rights to the water. They are not permitted to export bulk water. BC Hydro has not been banned from new generation. BC's electricity system is not being rapidly privatized. BC Hydro is not forced to buy from only IPPs. IPPs have not sold any long-term electricity to the US. Exporting electricity is not a priority for IPPs. New IPP energy does not cost more than BC Hydro's new energy. There is not a gold rush of IPP projects that are actually getting built. IPPs cannot build until they get about 50 environmental permits. Projects under 50 megawatts are not excused from getting all those permits. Cumulative impacts are not ignored. First Nations are not opposed to IPPs. In fact, they're either doing them themselves or they're crafting what are called impact benefit agreements with IPPs. Local government and the public are not prevented from commenting on IPP projects. Run-of-river projects are not being built in the salmon spawning channels. I could go on, but that's enough of what IPPs are not, at least until our rebuttal session of today's event. My main argument will focus on why IPPs, and specifically run-of-river projects, should continue to have an important role in our rivers and our environment. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The negative, Gwen Barlee, Policy Director, Wilderness Committee.
Thanks for coming out on a lovely night, and thanks to David Berner and Langara College as well as the sponsors. I'm here tonight to explain why private power isn't good for our rivers, our economy, or our environment. But before I do that, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Wilderness Committee. We're an organization that was founded 30 years ago in British Columbia around the kitchen table. And we're a grassroots organization that has 30,000 members and another 30,000 supporters. And we work to preserve biodiversity. We work to fight against climate change. We're working to introduce endangered species law in British Columbia. We're trying to stop urban sprawl, and we're working to protect the agricultural reserve lands also. But what I'll be discussing tonight is how I originally thought, the Wilderness Committee originally thought, that private power was the right solution for British Columbia. But upon digging deeper, we realized that environmental standards had been gutted in 2002 under the auspices of streamlining, that ministry biologists were pressured into signing off on projects, and that the Environmental Assessment Office was broken. And to give you an idea, last week we received a leaked document from the Ministry of Environment, and it showed that environmental standards had been lowered again, and Ministry of Environment managers were not allowed to say no to IPPs that didn't want to obey old growth management areas or wanted to log down to stream banks. And then yesterday, I got a Freedom of Information request on an IPP. And it was 1,200 pages on environmental transgressions that had happened at this IPP. So we realized that there were real problems with environmental standards. And we also realized that the 2002 BC Energy Plan forbade BC Hydro from producing new sources of hydroelectricity. And you often hear that that's not the case, but I'm going to read out point 13 verbatim to you from the 2002 Energy Plan. And it says this: the private sector will develop new electricity generation, with BC Hydro restricted to improvements at existing plants. So the private sector will develop new electricity generation. And then following that up, this is a quote from Minister Neufeld when he was speaking to Scott Simpson with the Vancouver Sun. And he said this, verbatim: BC Hydro must be broken up, and private sector companies given better access to the Crown Corporation's assets so that BC can participate in a rapidly evolving continental market for electricity. The Fort St. John MLA said the government now considers the proposed breakup of British Columbia's biggest Crown Corporation as a matter too urgent to be delayed until the release of the province's energy policy. And we're in the process of handicapping BC Hydro, which is our best tool for fighting climate change. And today, because of reliance on private power, we're on the hook, all of us, taxpayers and citizens across this province, for $30 billion in energy purchase agreements to private power companies for a small portion of our energy. And there's a much better way to spend $30 billion than that. With proper planning and public ownership, we can do green energy right. We can reduce our greenhouse gas emissions much more effectively. We can provide for BC's energy security needs and have money from public power flow back to public coffers. Thank you.